Hello. Good morning. This is on Imagination with the Healing Garden. I am talking this morning on part 3 of Triadic Healing and the Healing Garden. I am finally getting organized since arriving at the 8th perspective. I had this gorgeous umbrella overview and I went, oh, that's what I've been building. So I'm finally now able to pull it all together. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is everything is in our opinion, is through meetings and announcements and starting to get everybody on the same page. So I know it's been pretty disorganized and chaotic, and I've been all over the place since the beginning. And I finally, this week, specifically yesterday was day 1. Today is day 2 of me finally being organized. And I went, okay, let's get this thing put together. So this is specifically for part 3 of Triadic Healing. Part 1 is for people who are seeking to, it's the people. It is common man. It's people who are looking for their individual healing. That is part 1. Part 2 is looking for people who have completed their individual healing and they are ready to start helping others and continuing their own healing. They are parents, teachers, and healers. That is part 2. These are people who are looking to cultivate and nurture those who are in part 1. Now, if you are new to the Healing Garden, there is a very good possibility that you are part of 1 and 2. Part 1s are the people who are just looking to be individually healed. Part 2 want to both heal themselves and heal others. But there is an order. You cannot heal others until you heal yourself to a certain degree. So we need to make sure you are in at least perspective 5 before you can start providing instructions to 1, 2s, and 3s. That being said, part 3 is when we go global. That is your world peace. That's manifestation day. And that is Lightworkers. That is also for healers, but that is exclusive to healers. Those are the visionaries. There are no perspective that is better than any other perspective. That's the first rule of perspective thinking. There is absolutely no one better. There is no hierarchy. Hierarchy concepts and hierarchy thinking is very much perspective 4 thinking, perspectives 1, 2, and 3. We're done with that. I am upgrading everybody. I am telling everybody to raise those standards. There is no hierarchy. It is an order. And just because you are in a certain lineup in that order does not make you any better than anybody else. It means that you have a unique set of a combination of strengths and weaknesses, and there is a strength and weakness for every group. One of the analogies I made just yesterday that was very beautiful is people who are in perspectives 1, 2, and 3 have arms and hands. People who are in perspectives 4, 5, and 6 have only feet and legs. And people who are in perspectives 7, 8, and 9 have eyes. So with that analogy, everybody needs everybody. Everybody has a part in this. There is no better than everybody else. So abandon the prejudice, abandon the superiority. It has to end here. That's not tolerated in the Healing Garden. We do perspective thinking here. Perspective thinking replaces hierarchical thinking and the current system thinking. We're getting away from that because we're going to do a different way to live. And the first order of rule is that no perspective is better than any other perspective. We all need each other. So for part 3, the individuals, this is for light work, this is for Operation Imagination, and this is for the upcoming World Manifestation Day. You do not have to have your own healing complete to participate. There is accommodations for everybody. If you are being called to part 3 where you want to be involved in World Manifestation Day, you want to get involved with World Peace Manifestation Day, you want to get involved with light work, you are welcome. This is your place. If you are being called to it, it is your place. Your intuition and your identity is the core deciding factor. If that's where you feel drawn to, that is where you ethically belong, and that is where you are wanted and welcome. There is a place for everybody here. So that is for part 3. What I am working on at the moment is basically a Facebook group. That's the first resource. And this group is basically where I'm starting to organize and bring all light workers together. I have classes that I'm going to be starting up, and the classes starting in August are going to be focusing on what it's required to be light work, what the mentality is, and how we need to shift our thinking to be the most helpful to other people. This is really, really important. So please tune into this next section. Perspective thinking is the ability to end the perspective gap between all the perspectives. It's something you get when you get to level 8 perspective. I have the tools. I can teach you how to communicate among all the different perspectives. That way we can end violence and end misunderstanding. It's basically a decision to take on the role of mediator between the different perspectives. In this concept, gender ends, racial differences end, age groups end, education levels end. This is all just a matter of which your perspective is, which way you relate, and where you want to be when you grow up. It's no longer growing up, it's when you reach your alignment. Another concept that we need to start getting into the habit of using. I have a Learn the Lingo playlist, which also corresponds to this podcast, The Eighth Perspective, where it caters in and specifically targets that mindset of how to use the language. Once we learn the language, you're going to find your world completely changing because it allows us to bridge the communication gap between all the different perspectives. So if you're not quite understanding what it is I'm saying right now because I'm using new language, this is where you need to be so you can learn the language, so you can start cultivating basic mediation and concepts between everybody so you can settle things down. This is going to simplify a lot. I have watched my children pick this up in the last 5 days alone, and it's extraordinary to watch them start to use the language, understanding that, oh, we're just having a perspective difference. And it's very simple, broken down into just a few questions of which perspective is being violated. Am I forcing a perspective on another person, or are they forcing their perspective onto me? Am I being intolerant of their difference of perspective, or are they intolerating mine? And it's just a reminder, hey, we are different people. We're gonna have different perspectives. We all grow at a different pace, and that's okay. It's no different than when we expect a 2-year-old to behave like an 8-year-old. That is exactly the same mentality. And that doesn't stop just because we're older, or we're boys or girls, or we have different ethics. It doesn't change. We are still holding this expectation of, well, why can't the 2-year-old understand the 8-year-old? We would never expect this of children. Why are we expecting it of everybody else with their perspective? Stop looking at gender. Stop looking at age. Stop looking at education level and degree. Stop looking at race. We need to start looking at perspectives and eliminate the hierarchy and look at it very simply as a high tolerance, appreciation, and celebration of order. And it's the order of just, this is the stage they're at. This is just the stage of growth. If you've ever been a parent where you've looked at your different children and your children come to you complaining and you say, you need to be a little bit more patient. They're at 4 years old. You're 17. They're not going to think the same way you do. Or I know it's frustrating, but they are 2. They have a level 2 perspective. You are 6 years old. You're not going to see eye to eye. You must be intolerant. I'm sorry. You must be tolerant and celebratory, not just tolerant, celebratory of your differences, because that 2-year-old has a perspective that you can use and vice versa. And when you learn to work together, you can use each other's strengths and weaknesses to the benefit of each other. That's what sharing is all about. And that's pretty much what we have forgotten, is when we get to be about 6 to 8 years old, this expectation vanishes and suddenly everyone's held to a higher standard. You have to conform to 4th perspective. You have to conform to parental thinking. You have to conform to the way an abuser wants you to behave, or there's going to be safety consequences. We're abandoning that. In the 8th level perspective, we throw all that out and we cultivate an entirely new philosophy of life. And that philosophy revolves around perspective thinking, which is the concept that everybody is the same, that everybody does have the equal tolerance rights, that everybody is allowed to be different, and those differences are our strengths, and they must be celebrated. That being said, it's also an appreciation that because our identities are so unique, that immediately puts us in a position where we have to allow for those differences in a psychological safe place. So that is really what we are doing here. We are cultivating psychological safety where our differences can flourish. That is the goal of part 3. And it starts with the visionaries. It starts with people who are in that levels 7, 8, and 9. And once you hit level 6, you can start to feel it. So I'm calling out to the 6s here also, even though you're more in the cultivating section. So if you are feeling that pull towards 6, 7, 8, or 9, that is you. It is our responsibility to start laying down the standard of, hey, coexist, not just for tolerance, for celebration. Coexist in celebration of our differences. So to do that, we are first eliminating all of the hierarchy. No one is better than anybody else. We are eliminating age, education, race, and all gender. Those 4 things that we love to categorize, that's all level 4 thinking. They cannot exist in perspective thinking. So eliminate it. Absolutely eliminate it. Here we talk about combinations. What is your ethical perspective? Patience and gentleness for the subconsciousness. Yes, subconsciousness. I'm sorry, I lost my track with my adjectives. Adjectives, damn it. So what we need to be focused on is, what is your ethical perspective? That is the question. That is the first question that she would be asking is, oh, you're in this group too. What's your ethical number? And it's okay. It's not a label. It's just letting people know. And it's your opinion. It's your identity. It's who you are. You can turn around and say, I think I'm a level 6, or I'm a level 7, or I'm a level 8. And great. Talk about that. Exchange ideas. And here's the other thing. Just because you are in the same level as somebody else in the same perspective, that means your ethics somewhat match. It doesn't mean that you actually don't have little perspectives within your perspective that's going to collide with other people. Expect the differences, embrace them, communicate with each other to see where you're matched up and how you're different. And don't focus anymore on what you're similar, how you're the same. Instead, focus on how you're different. That's where the magic happens. Focus and celebrate the difference, not the similarities. That is huge. One of the things I keep going back to in my mind, and I can't get away from this, is Spock's parents. Spock's father was an ambassador for Earth. Now, he was a Vulcan who was the Vulcan ambassador attending Earth, and Spock's mother was a human being. And it always intrigued me. I'm like, why did why did his father marry a human? It's extraordinary. I'm just like, so fascinating to me. And I believe he did it politically because, that's logical and he's a Vulcan. He did it politically to strengthen his bonds to Earth because he is the Earth's ambassador to Vulcan. So I'm like really intrigued like this. And this is really a concept I really want to push into here with especially part 3 is look for our differences, celebrate our differences. And to do that, we first need to eliminate the hierarchy. We need to eliminate age, education, race, and gender. Those 4 things have, religion is also in there. That's the other thing. And culture. Anything else we need to eliminate? Age, education, race, gender, religion, culture. Yeah, make sure religion and culture is in there also. Age, education, race, gender, religion, and culture. All of those must go out the door. You can have them. They're your own personal thing. That's fine. But that is not what you need to be judging a person on. And this really is what it comes down to. It's not even so much as judging. It's when you categorize, not the right word either, is it? Doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good to me either. I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But definitely start by getting rid of those. And when you start accepting another person, and I'll tell you, this is a story. I have a roommate right now, and he's 21 years old, but he speaks, maybe he's 20, but he speaks like he's 40, to the point where when I talk to him, I didn't even realize how old he was. Now, my son is 19, and my roommate kept asking about my son. And I was like, boy, he's got an interest in my son. And I found out later it's because new friend. They're the same age. And it didn't even occur to me. And so I could see them reaching out to each other, trying to cultivate a new friendship. So I helped bridge the gap. We brought them together. We compared ages, and they had this, oh, you're my age. Oh, you're my age. Oh, you're into anime. You're into gaming. So they came together, and my son had this moment of, oh my God, you're my age and you're talking on my level, because they are both perspective sixes. But my son, who is 19 years old, is used to perspective threes, perspective three. So here he is now with somebody who is not only his own age, but also his own perspective, who's not his mother. And he's going, oh my God, there's somebody in the world who's like me. And now they're connecting. And it was extraordinary to see him come together and see that community. So, and this is really important. I say focus on differences, but really there's a balance. Remember how everything is a spectrum? And you have our similarities and our differences. We want that in the middle. We want that in the middle, that in between. That's where the neutral energy starts. If you go all similar, that's going to jump out too much positive. If you focus on all our differences, that's going to punch out too much negative. We require the similarities to pull our differences together. We require our similarities to pull our differences together. And that just answered an ethical conundrum I have been dealing with for 2 years. That actually just solidified something that I've been trying to work out myself. So we need both similarities and differences to neutral out that energy. So we pump in the positive, the correct level of energy into the energy pool so that it balances out evenly. Because right now we have way too much negative that's dumping out. So we're going to need both the similarity and differences bonding together to neutral out that energy. What I am referring to right now is basically the energy polarity of emotions. And I will be doing a whole thing on that. That's something I teach in here, is the emotional polarity, the emotions and energy and how they correspond. I will be doing a class on that. That's going to be over at Perspective, Shifting Perspectives, where I dive more into that. So similarities and differences definitely need to be brought together. And that's how we're going to start cultivating that. So I'm going to be doing more work on light work. Saturdays are my light work days. That's when I focus on manifestation for world peace. And that's when I focus on Operation Imagination. So I am now taking applicants for the roundtable. It is currently $15,000 for members to get a voting seat and an ability to propose a topic that they want to address at the roundtable. So that's available at Operation Imagination on my website, anna's.healinggarden.org. Take a look at Operation Imagination, and that covers all my light work. It covers everything with part 3. It covers this entire encompassing area. So if any of this interests you, I have resources available on the treasure map. If you scroll down, and you can also see it in the link below, I have resources, and it shows you where all my resources are, which podcasts to follow, which Facebook groups to follow, and where to get organized in all of this. So welcome to part 3 of Triadic Healing. If you are in need of individual triadic healing for yourself, you are going to want to take a look at part 1. If you are wanting to help the community and cultivate as a parent, a teacher, or a healer, you are going to want to take a look at part 2. And again, there's no limit. You can jump into all 3 of them. You can embrace just the one you need. It's however you need it. I have resources and instruction for all of them. So figure out where you want to go, figure out how active you want to be in this, figure out which parts you want to get enrolled in. It's absolutely an all-encompassing program. I also have outside resources for people who I collaborate with and other businesses who I collaborate with, so they can bring in their own healing sources for everybody. So it's a wellness center all in one. So thank you so much. And the best way to get all of this information is through my newsletter subscription, which link is down below. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.